The morphine was wearing off when I heard them outside my hospital room. My son Daniel's voice hushed but urgent. Then hers. Amanda, my daughter-in-law. The realtor says we could get 2.3 million, maybe more. She won't last long, Daniel. The doctors said so. I kept my eyes closed, my breath steady. They thought I was dying. They were planning to sell my farm. My grandfather's farm. The land I'd bled for. And Amanda had convinced my only child to betray me. I was still in that hospital bed, machines beeping softly around me, when I heard Daniel's voice crack with uncertainty. I don't know, Amanda. It feels wrong doing this while she's... Amanda cut him off, her voice sharp and impatient. While she's what, getting better? Daniel, be realistic. Even if she survives this, she's 67 years old, with a bad heart. She can't run a 200-acre farm anymore. I heard the rustle of papers just outside my door. My heart monitor beeped a little faster, but I forced myself to stay still, to keep my breathing shallow and regular. I needed to hear this. I needed to understand what was happening. I already spoke with the realtor, Amanda continued. We can list it this week. I've been looking at memory care facilities. There's a nice one in Riverside. Your mom would be comfortable there. Daniel protested, but his voice was weak, uncertain. She's not senile, Amanda. She's sharp as ever. Is she, though? Amanda's voice dropped lower, more intimate, more manipulative. Last month she forgot our anniversary dinner. 2 weeks ago she called me by your sister's name. That was a lie. Daniel didn't have a sister. He was an only child, just like me. The realization hit me like ice water. Amanda had been laying groundwork for this, planting seeds of doubt in my son's mind for months, maybe longer. The door to my room opened, and I heard a nurse's cheerful voice. Just checking vitals, folks. You can come in if you'd like. I kept my eyes closed as footsteps approached my bed. Daniel's hand found mine warm and familiar. Mom, can you hear me? I wanted so desperately to squeeze his hand, to open my eyes and tell him I heard everything. But something stopped me. Some instinct told me I needed to wait to understand the full scope of their plan before I revealed myself. Poor thing, Amanda said loudly, as if I were deaf as well as unconscious. She looked so frail. The nurse finished her checks and left. Daniel stayed by my bed for a few more minutes, holding my hand before Amanda gently pulled him away. Let her rest. We have calls to make. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. I waited until I was sure they were gone, then opened my eyes slightly. The room was dim, late evening light, filtering through the blinds. On the windowsill, I noticed a manila folder. Amanda must have left it behind. I waited through the longest hours of my life. The nurse came back twice more for checks. A doctor stopped by, updated my chart, seemed satisfied with my progress. Each time I played my role perfectly. The dying woman barely conscious, no threat to anyone. It was past midnight when I finally moved. The hallway was quiet, most patients asleep. My body screamed in protest as I pushed myself up, unhooking the heart monitor carefully. It beeped once, and I froze, but no one came. I shuffled to the windowsill, each step an effort that left me breathless. The folder was thick, stuffed with documents. I carried it back to my bed and opened it under the dim light. Real estate listings for my property, market analysis showing comparable sales in the area. My farm reduced to numbers on a page, but there was more, much more. A power of attorney document with my signature at the bottom. Perfect loops, perfect pressure. I stared at it, my hands beginning to shake. I had never signed this document, never even seen it before. But the signature looked exactly like mine. There were more papers underneath. Preliminary admission forms for Meadowview Estates Memory Care Center. Also with my signature, also forged. A business card slipped out from between the pages. Meadowbrook Development, LLC. We pay cash for land. A local number. My mind raced, trying to understand. This wasn't just about waiting for me to die and then selling the farm. They were planning to have me declared incompetent, to put me away while I was still alive. The forged signatures meant Amanda had been planning this for months, maybe years. She'd been patient, methodical, waiting for her opportunity. And I'd given it to her by having a heart attack. I heard footsteps in the hallway, quick and purposeful. I barely had time to shove the folder under my blanket and lie back down before the door opened. Amanda stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the hall lights. She moved to the windowsill, her movements careful, looking for the folder. She found the space empty and turned slowly toward my bed. In the dim light, I couldn't see her expression clearly, but I felt her eyes on me. My heart monitor spiked, betraying my consciousness. Amanda walked slowly to my bedside. She stood there for a long moment, then leaned down close to my ear. "You're awake, aren't you, Connie?" I didn't move, didn't breathe. She straightened up and I heard the smile in her voice. "It doesn't matter. Even if you fight this, Daniel will believe me. I've made sure of that." She pulled the folder from under my blanket, easy as that, and walked out. I lay there in the darkness, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give out again. I was in more danger than I'd realized. Amanda knew I might be aware. This would accelerate her timeline. Whatever she was planning, she'd move faster now. I had to act, but I had to be smart about it. 5 days later, the doctor cleared me to go home. "Take it easy, Mrs. Carson," he said, signing my discharge papers. "No heavy activity. Reduce stress. Take your medications religiously. You're lucky to be alive." Lucky. I didn't feel lucky as Daniel helped me into his truck. Amanda had conveniently needed to work that day, so it was just the two of us. I'd spent those 5 days in the hospital carefully crafting my performance. I acted a little weaker than I was, a little more confused about dates and times. Not enough to seem incompetent, but enough to make them think I was vulnerable, pliable. During the drive home, I stared out the window at the familiar landscape. Rolling hills, farmland, stretching in every direction. This was home. This had always been home. "Mom, maybe Amanda's right," Daniel said quietly. "Maybe you shouldn't be alone out there." I turned to look at my son. He had my late husband's eyes, kind and worried. "I'll be fine, sweetheart. It's just a little heart episode." "It was a heart attack, Mom. A serious one. The doctor said another one could." He didn't finish. I reached over and patted his hand. "I'm tougher than I look." We pulled up to the farmhouse and something in my chest tightened. Not my heart, but something deeper. This house had been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather had built it with his own hands. My father had expanded it. I'd raised Daniel here. Every board, every nail, every memory was mine. But something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Everything looked the same. The wraparound porch, the old swing, the flower beds I'd planted 20 years ago. But as Daniel helped me inside, I noticed small things out of place. Mail on the kitchen counter that had been opened and hastily restacked. The door to my office, slightly ajar when I always kept it closed. Someone had been in my house, going through my things. Daniel got me settled in the living room, fussing over pillows and blankets. "Amanda will be by later with groceries. She made you a casserole." "That's sweet of her," I said, and meant it to sound genuine. After Daniel left, I sat still for 10 minutes, listening to the silence of my house. Then I got up slower than necessary in case anyone was watching and walked to my office. The filing cabinet was locked just as I'd left it, but I could see scratches around the lock, fresh ones. Someone had tried to pick it. I opened it with my key and checked inside. My legal files had been rifled through. Financial statements from the last 6 months were missing. My computer, an old desktop I barely used, showed recent activity when I checked the browser history. Someone had been searching for information about my assets, my accounts, my property value. I picked up my old flip phone, the one I'd had for 15 years that Daniel always teased me about. He'd bought me a smartphone last Christmas, set it all up for me, but I'd kept the flip phone for emergencies. Good thing, too. I didn't trust that smartphone anymore. I dialed the number for First Security Bank and asked for Helen. Helen Martinez, had been the bank manager for 30 years. We'd gone to church together, served on the school board together. She was more than a banker. She was a friend. Connie, thank goodness you're all right. I heard about your heart attack. How are you feeling? Better, Helen. Listen, I need to ask you something. Has anyone been inquiring about my accounts? There was a pause. Funny you should ask. Amanda came in about 2 weeks ago. She had some questions about your accounts, said she was helping you get organized. My stomach dropped. What kind of questions? She wanted to know about balances, assets, that sort of thing. She also brought in documents that she said showed you wanted to add her as a joint account holder. What did you tell her? I told her I'd need to see you in person before making any changes. Connie, I've known you too long. Something felt off about the whole thing. Thank you, Helen. I need you to flag all my accounts. No changes without me appearing in person with identification. Can you do that? Of course. But Connie, if Daniel has power of attorney, I might not be able to stop him from accessing the accounts. He doesn't. Not really. Don't let anyone make changes. I'll be in to see you soon. After I hung up, I walked out to the barn. It was a long walk, and my chest ached by the time I got there, but I needed to check something. In the back corner, hidden behind old equipment, was a safe my father had installed 40 years ago. Only I knew the combination. Inside were documents I kept separate from everything else. Property deeds, insurance policies, and something I'd almost forgotten about. A folder labeled Baxter Mortgage. Baxter was Amanda's maiden name. I pulled out the folder and sat on an old hay bale reading through papers I hadn't looked at in years. 15 years ago, Amanda's parents, Robert and Susan Baxter, had faced foreclosure. They'd borrowed heavily against their home to invest in a business that failed. The bank was going to take everything. They'd come to me quietly embarrassed. Robert had done some work on my farm over the years. Good, honest work. They were good people who'd made bad decisions. I'd bought their mortgage from the bank, cut the interest rate in half, and gave them manageable payment terms. I'd never mentioned it to Daniel or Amanda. It seemed like a private matter between me and the Baxters. Looking at the records now, I saw they still owed $73,000, 12 years left on the loan. But there was more. An addendum from 10 years ago that I'd forgotten about. The Baxters had fallen behind on payments facing default. To avoid foreclosure, they'd signed additional paperwork. I read it carefully, my legal training from years ago kicking in. They'd signed over the deed to their house as collateral. The language was clear as crystal. If they defaulted, the property would transfer to me automatically. No foreclosure process necessary. The deed would simply become mine. I checked the payment records stapled to the back of the file. They'd made sporadic payments over the years, sometimes missing months, always catching up eventually. But looking at the most recent entries, I felt my breath catch. No payments in 8 months. According to the contract terms, they were in default. I could call the loan. And based on the deed transfer clause, I didn't just hold their mortgage anymore. I essentially owned their house. I sat there in the barn as the afternoon light slanted through the cracks in the walls, trying to process this information. Was this why Amanda was so desperate? Did she know her parents were in trouble? Was the farm sale not just about greed, but about saving her parents' home? For a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered the forged signatures, the lies she'd told Daniel, the way she'd whispered in my hospital room that it didn't matter if I knew. I put the documents back in the safe and walked slowly back to the house. Amanda arrived that evening with Daniel carrying grocery bags and a casserole dish. She was all smiles and concern. "Connie, you look so much better. How are you feeling?" "Tired, but okay." She set the casserole in the oven to warm. Unpacked groceries fluttered around my kitchen like she owned it. Daniel watched her with obvious affection. He loved her, that was clear, and that made everything so much harder. They left after dinner, Amanda kissing my cheek, Daniel promising to check on me tomorrow. I watched their taillights disappear down the long driveway, then checked the pantry. The oatmeal I'd bought 2 weeks ago before my heart attack was gone. I knew it had been there. I'd eaten it for breakfast, the morning I went to the hospital. Amanda was already laying traps. The next morning, Daniel arrived with Amanda and someone else. A woman in her 50s, professionally dressed, carrying a tablet. "Mom, this is Dr. Patricia Winters. She's a geriatric specialist. Amanda thought it would be good to have a wellness check, make sure you're recovering well." I smiled politely, but my mind was racing. This was the next step. Getting medical documentation of incompetence. Dr. Winters sat down and asked me questions. What day was it? Who was the president? Could I count backward from 100 by sevens? I answered everything correctly, calmly. But then Amanda interjected. "Doctor, show her the picture test. She's been having trouble with those." Dr. Winters pulled out cards with simple pictures. An apple, a chair, a dog. I identified them all without hesitation. Amanda looked frustrated. "Mom, what did you have for breakfast?" I thought carefully before answering. "Oatmeal with blueberries." Amanda turned to the doctor, her face concerned. "She didn't have breakfast. I brought her groceries yesterday, and there's no oatmeal in the house. She's confabulating." Daniel looked alarmed. The doctor made notes. I said calmly, "I had some in the pantry from before." Amanda shook her head sadly. "There's nothing in the pantry, Mom." I checked. Dr. Winters recommended follow-up cognitive testing. After they left, I checked the pantry again. Amanda had been right. The oatmeal was gone. She'd removed it probably last night. Every interaction was a trap. Every word I said could be twisted into evidence of my decline. I was fighting a battle where the rules kept changing, and I was already behind. 1 week later, a certified letter arrived. I signed for it, with shaking hands, and read it standing in my driveway. Notice of conservatorship petition. Amanda Carson and Daniel Carson petition the court to be appointed conservators of the person and estate of Constance Marie Carson due to declining mental capacity, inability to manage affairs, and risk to herself. Hearing scheduled in 17 days. Attached were Dr. Winters' report recommending evaluation for cognitive impairment. Statements from 3 neighbors saying, "I'd seemed confused lately." All the pieces of Amanda's carefully constructed narrative compiled in black and white. I called my lawyer immediately. Bernard Shaw had handled my affairs for 25 years. He'd drawn up my will-managed property transfers, advised me through countless farm business decisions. If anyone could help me, it was Bernard. His secretary said he was in a meeting. He'd call me back. 2 days passed before my phone rang. When Bernard finally spoke, his voice was careful, cautious, in a way it had never been before. "Connie, I had a visit from Amanda. She's very concerned about you. Bernard, you've known me for decades. Do I seem incompetent to you?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. She showed me documentation. The hospital incident, the doctor's report. "Connie, I need to be honest. Given what I've seen, it might be better if you didn't contest this. Daniel loves you. He'll take care of the farm. They're going to sell it. Maybe that's for the best. It's a lot for you to manage at your age." At my age, as if 67 made me ancient and useless. "I want to contest the conservatorship. If you won't represent me, I'll find someone who will." Bernard sighed. "I'll represent you. But Connie, I think you should seriously consider that your family might be right about this." Even my own lawyer thought I was losing my mind. I decided to visit my neighbors, the people who'd supposedly given statements about my confusion. First stop was Ruth Brennan's house. Ruth and I had been friends for 30 years. We'd raised our kids together, traded recipes, helped each other through hard times. But when she opened her door, her smile was strained. "Connie, how are you feeling?" "I'm fine, Ruth. Can we talk?" She let me in, but her warmth was gone. We sat in her kitchen, and I asked directly, "What did Amanda tell you?" Ruth looked uncomfortable. She stopped by last week, said you've been struggling, forgetting things, getting confused about dates. She paused. She said last month you left your stove on all night, that you could have burned down your house. That never happened. Ruth looked at me with pity, the way you look at someone who doesn't realize they're sick. That's what people with dementia say, honey. They don't remember. I visited 3 more neighbors that afternoon. Amanda had spoken to all of them. Each had a different story. Mrs. Palmer said I'd been wandering in my nightgown at midnight. Never happened. Mr. Torres said I'd forgotten my grandson's name. Daniel didn't have children. Mrs. Chen said I'd asked her the same question 5 times in one conversation. The stories were contradictory, but no one had compared notes. Amanda had been careful giving each person a different anecdote, building a pattern of decline from separate threads. That evening I drove to First Security Bank. Helen took me into her private office and closed the door. Connie, I need to tell you something. Someone tried to access your accounts this morning. Who? Daniel. He came in with power of attorney documents. My heart felt like it might give out again right there. Did you let him? No. The signature looked wrong to me. I told him I needed to verify with you first. She pulled out a photocopy of the document. Look at this. I studied my supposed signature. It was masterful. Every loop, every curve looked like mine. But Helen pointed to the capital C in Connie. You loop it twice. Always have. This one only loops once. Helen, I never signed this. She nodded. I didn't think so. But Connie Daniel seemed genuinely confused. He said Amanda had gotten the paperwork done while you were in the hospital, that you'd signed it there. Daniel didn't know about the forgeries. Amanda was manipulating him just as much as she was trying to manipulate everyone else. Helen, can you pull up records for a mortgage I hold? Baxter is the name. She typed into her computer. Robert and Susan Baxter. Let's see. They're 8 months delinquent. She read further. Actually, according to this, they've defaulted on the loan. What happens with a default under that particular contract? Helen pulled up the original loan documents. Her eyes widened. There's an automatic property transfer clause. Connie. According to this, you own their house now. The deed transferred automatically when they missed the 6th consecutive payment. I hadn't realized the transfer was automatic. I'd thought I'd have to initiate it. Have they been notified? You'd need to check with the title company, but normally yes, they would have received notice. Amanda knew. She had to know. Her parents had lost their house and I held the deed. That's why she was so desperate. The farm sale wasn't just to help her parents. It was to buy back their house from me. I left the bank feeling the weight of this knowledge. In the parking lot, Amanda was waiting, leaning against her car. Hello, Connie. Helen called me. Said you were here confused about your accounts. Helen didn't call you. Amanda smiled. She's worried about you. We all are. What do you want, Amanda? I want you to stop fighting this. Sign the papers. Let Daniel take care of everything. You'll be comfortable, well cared for. And my farm. The farm will be sold to people who can properly manage it. The money will go to your care. I looked at her carefully. What happens to the money after I'm gone? She didn't flinch. Daniel is your heir. It would go to him, to us. And you'll use it to buy back your parents' house. Her expression changed shock, giving way to anger. You have no right to hold that over them. They were desperate when they signed that contract. I gave them better terms than any bank would have. You took advantage of them. I stayed calm. I helped them. And now you're trying to steal from me to fix their mistakes. Amanda stepped closer, her voice low and hard. You're going to lose this, Connie. The hearing is in 2 weeks. Every doctor, every neighbor, even your own lawyer, thinks you're senile. Daniel will testify against you. You'll end up in a facility and the farm will be sold. The only question is whether you go peacefully or fighting. She got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing there. That night, someone broke into my home office. I woke to the sound of papers rustling, but by the time I got downstairs, they were gone. The office was a mess. Papers scattered everywhere, and my computer was missing. I called the sheriff. A young deputy arrived, someone I didn't know. He looked around, took notes. Daniel and Amanda showed up 20 minutes later. How had they known to come? "Oh no, Mom," Amanda said, her voice dripping with concern. "Did you leave the door unlocked again?" "Someone broke in," I said firmly. The deputy examined the door. "There's no sign of forced entry, ma'am." Amanda turned to him, her voice gentle. "She's been having some memory issues. Sometimes she misplaces things and thinks they're stolen." The deputy nodded sympathetically. He suggested, "Maybe I should have someone stay with me." "Mom, come stay with us for a while," Daniel said. "I knew if I went to their house I'd never leave. I'm fine here." After they left, I searched for what had been taken. My computer had files on it documenting Amanda's suspicious activities. Notes I'd made about her visits to the bank, the questions she'd asked neighbors. All gone. I checked my office safe. The Baxter mortgage documents were missing, but I still had copies in the barn safe. Amanda didn't know about that one. I had 12 days until the hearing. 12 days to prove I wasn't incompetent. 12 days to save my farm. And I was losing ground fast. The morning of the conservatorship hearing, I woke before dawn. I'd barely slept, my mind running through scenarios, arguments, evidence. Bernard Shaw picked me up at 8. He'd insisted on driving me to the courthouse. In the car, he went over our strategy. Except it wasn't much of a strategy. He planned to argue that I was lucid, capable, that the evidence was circumstantial. He was going through the motions, I realized. He'd already decided we would lose. The courthouse was small, family court, informal, compared to the grand criminal courtrooms I'd seen on television, Judge Patricia Mendez presiding. She was middle-aged with kind eyes and a reputation for being thorough. She was known for protecting vulnerable people, which should have been good for me, except she thought I was the vulnerable one who needed protecting. Daniel and Amanda were already there with their lawyer, Marcus Sterling. He was young, maybe 35, with expensive clothes and an expensive briefcase. I wondered how they were paying for him. The courtroom filled quickly. Judge Mendez called us to order. Sterling stood first, presenting their petition. He was methodical, professional. He outlined the medical evidence, my heart attack doctor. Winter's report suggesting cognitive evaluation. He presented the case for why I needed protection. It all sounded so reasonable, so caring. Then Daniel took the stand. My son, my only child. The boy I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose fears I'd soothed. He looked at me with such sadness as Sterling asked him questions. "Can you describe your mother's recent behavior?" Daniel hesitated. "She's been forgetful, confused about dates." "Can you give specific examples?" He listed them. The anniversary dinner I'd supposedly forgotten, calling Amanda by the wrong name, leaving the stove on all night. Every lie Amanda had fed him, he repeated as truth. Sterling showed him a document. "Is this your mother's signature?" It was the forged power of attorney. Daniel studied it. "Yes, that's her signature." "Did you see her sign it?" "No. Amanda was with her when she signed it." Bernard objected weakly, but the document went into evidence. The judge examined it, saw the notary stamp, clearly believed it was authentic. "I love my mother, Daniel," continued, his voice breaking. "I just want her safe. The farm is too much for her now." "What do you propose happens to the farm?" Daniel glanced at Amanda. "We've had an offer. A development company wants to buy it. The money would go to Mom's care. And if she refuses to sell, then we'd need the conservatorship to act in her best interest." 3 neighbors testified next. Ruth, Mrs. Palmer, Mr. Torres. Each told their stories about my supposed decline. The nightgown wandering, the forgotten conversations, the repeated questions. All lies, but they believed them. Bernard cross-examined, asking if they'd seen me recently, if I'd seemed fine. They had, and I had. But they explained it away. Amanda said she has good days and bad days. Today must be a good day. It was a perfect trap. Dr. Winters testified about her evaluation. Mrs. Carson showed signs of confabulation, reporting events that didn't happen. The oatmeal incident. Yes. She insisted she'd eaten oatmeal for breakfast, but there was none in the house. Bernard asked if she'd physically verified this. She hadn't. She'd relied on Amanda's report. Small victory, but not enough. Doctor? Winters recommended a full neurological evaluation, which I'd refused. This made me look like I was hiding something. Then Amanda took the stand. She was poised, sympathetic, the perfect, concerned daughter-in-law. I love Connie. She's been like a mother to me. She described years of devotion, helping with the farm, managing appointments, being there through thick and thin. When did you first notice changes? About 8 months ago. Small things at first. Forgetting conversations, repeating herself. Why didn't you act sooner? I didn't want to believe it. I kept hoping it was just stress. Then, she pulled out a document. This is a letter Connie wrote me 6 months ago. The letter in shaky handwriting. Amanda, if anything happens to me, please help Daniel with the farm. I trust you. Another forgery, but brilliant. The shaky handwriting suggested decline, deterioration. The judge examined it carefully. I think in her lucid moments Connie knows she needs help, Amanda said. That's why she wrote this. But her pride won't let her accept it consciously. She was reframing my resistance as proof of my incompetence. Then it was my turn to testify. Bernard asked gentle questions. Did I understand why we were here? Did I feel capable of managing my affairs? I answered carefully, but every answer sounded wrong. When I said they wanted to take control of my property, I sounded paranoid. When I said I'd managed for 40 years, I sounded defensive. Sterling cross-examined me. Mrs. Carson, do you remember signing this power of attorney document? He showed me the forgery. I never signed that. The notary stamp says you signed it in the hospital. I was sedated most of that time. So you don't remember signing it, or you didn't sign it? A trap either way. I didn't sign it. Mrs. Carson, are you accusing your family of forgery? Put that way, it sounded insane. I looked at Daniel, saw pain in his eyes. I couldn't do it. I'm saying I don't remember signing anything. Now I sounded confused, uncertain. Exactly what they needed. Sterling showed me the forged letter. You wrote this letter to Amanda, didn't you? I looked at it, recognized immediately it was fake. That's not my handwriting. It's signed with your name. Someone forged it. Sterling turned to the judge. Your Honor, Mrs. Carson is claiming multiple forgeries of her own signature. This paranoid thinking is exactly what concerns us. Judge Mendez looked troubled. She took a long moment before speaking. This is a difficult case. Mrs. Carson appears lucid today. However, the pattern of evidence suggests cognitive decline. She paused. I'm granting a temporary conservatorship for 60 days, pending full neuropsychological evaluation. Daniel Carson will serve as conservator of person and estate. However, no major assets may be sold without court approval and independent appraisal. My heart sank. Amanda's face showed brief disappointment, then satisfaction. She had 60 days. Outside the courtroom, Daniel approached me. Mom, I'm sorry. This is for your own good. Daniel, she's lying to you. Mom, please, don't make this harder. Amanda joined us. Connie, we've arranged a beautiful room at Meadowview Estates. You'll be comfortable there. I'm not going to a nursing home. Her smile was cold. The judge gave Daniel authority over your living arrangements. You don't have a choice. That evening they packed my bags. Daniel was gentle, sad. Amanda was efficient, victorious. As they drove me away from my farm, I looked back at the house where I'd lived for 40 years, where I'd raised my son, where 3 generations of my family had built their lives. I had 60 days. The farm sale could still be stopped, but only with court approval. And I was being locked away, where I couldn't fight back. Meadowview Estates was nice. Too nice. The kind of place that cost a fortune and felt like a luxury hotel, except the doors locked from the outside, and staff monitored your every move for your own safety. My room had a comfortable bed, a television, a private bathroom, large windows overlooking gardens, activities scheduled throughout the day, friendly staff who spoke to me in cheerful, patronizing voices. I'd been there 3 weeks when I overheard the conversation that confirmed my worst fears. Daniel visited 3 times a week, guilt written all over his face. Amanda came once a week, victorious and false, bringing flowers and magazines I didn't want. I had 1 phone in my room, but calls were monitored for my safety. I had no computer access. My mail was held for me at the farm, which meant Amanda controlled it. I was isolated, cut off from everyone and everything I knew. The other residents were kind, some of them sharp, and aware, others lost in confusion. Staff treated us all the same way, gentle and condescending. When I insisted I didn't belong there, they nodded sympathetically. That's what they all say at first, dear. I learned the facility cost $9,000 a month. My assets were paying for my own imprisonment. Then Daniel visited with news that made my blood run cold. Mom, I wanted you to know we've accepted an offer on the farm. You can't sell without court approval. We got it. Judge Mendez approved the sale yesterday. Amanda showed her the facility costs your medical bills. The judge agreed, selling is in your best financial interest. How much? $2.4 million. It's a fair price. Who's buying? Meadowbrook Development. They're going to build a housing community. My grandfather's farm subdivided into cookie-cutter houses. When? Closing is in 10 days. He left quickly, unable to meet my eyes. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I heard voices outside my door, 2 nurses speaking in hushed tones. They didn't know I was awake. Did you hear about the Carson woman's daughter-in-law? One said. The pretty one who comes every week. Yeah, she was in Administrator Wilson's office this afternoon. I was dropping off files. And she was asking about permanent placement. Said after the farm sells, she wants to move Carson to the memory care ward. But Carson doesn't have dementia. Apparently the daughter-in-law told Wilson that Carson is just good at hiding it. Said she needs more structured care. Wilson was eating it up. That ward is locked. No phone, no visitors without approval. I know. Seems wrong, but Wilson said the family knows best. They walked away, leaving me staring at the ceiling in the darkness. Amanda's endgame was clear now. After the farm sold, I'd be moved to the locked memory care ward. No contact with the outside world. No lawyer, no friends, no way to fight. I'd disappear into that ward, and eventually I'd die there. The farm money would go to Daniel, but Amanda controlled Daniel. She'd have everything. I had 10 days before the sale closed. Maybe 7, before she moved me to the locked ward. I tried to escape. The first day I walked toward the front entrance. The receptionist stopped me politely. Mrs. Carson, where are you going? For a walk. Let me call someone to accompany you. They wouldn't let me leave alone. Safety policy. I was escorted back to my room like a child who'd wandered off. I tried to call Bernard from my room phone. The line was dead. Phone system maintenance, they said. I asked to use the staff phone. Against policy, dear. Use your room phone. But my room phone stayed dead for 3 days. I wrote a letter to Helen at the bank, gave it to staff to mail. Of course, Mrs. Carson. We'll get this right out. I later saw it in the trash. 5 days before the closing, Amanda visited. She was cheerful, bringing roses. Connie, how are you adjusting? When are you moving me to memory care? Her smile didn't falter. How did you hear about that? The nurses talk. It's for your own good. You'll be more comfortable there. More supervised. More imprisoned. She sat down, dropped the pretense. Let me be honest. After the farm closes, you'll be moved to a ward where you'll have no access to lawyers, no unsupervised contact with anyone. Daniel thinks it's for your safety. He'll believe whatever I tell him. Why are you doing this? You know why. My parents are about to lose everything. That farm money will save them. I gave your parents fair terms on that mortgage. She laughed bitterly. Fair you took their house, Connie. When they couldn't pay, you took their house. The contract was clear. They signed it. They were desperate. And you took advantage. So yes, I'm taking your farm. Call it payback. Daniel will find out the truth. No, he won't. Because you'll be locked in memory care, labeled incompetent. Anything you say will be dismissed as delusion. I've already told the staff you have paranoid ideation. She stood to leave. Oh, and about that mortgage. My parents' lawyer found a loophole. We're fighting the property transfer. We'll have their house back and your farm money. You'll die in this facility with nothing. After she left, I managed to bribe a janitor $50 to use his phone. I called Helen. Helen, it's Connie, the Baxter mortgage. Has there been any legal action? She checked. Yes. 3 days ago, attorneys for the Baxters filed suit, claiming predatory lending and unconscionable contract terms. They're challenging the deed transfer. Can they win? Possibly. If a judge decides the original terms were too harsh. Connie, where are you calling from? Is there any way to stop the farm sale? Not without the conservatorship being overturned. I'm sorry. The janitor took his phone back. I was losing everything. The farm, the Baxter house, my freedom, all of it slipping away. 7 days before the closing, I was moved to a different room. Just reorganizing, they said. But this room was in a different wing. The door locked from the outside. No phone at all. I'd been moved early to the memory care ward. Through my window, I could see the parking lot. That evening, I watched Amanda and Daniel arrive. They went into the administration building. An hour later, they left. The sale closed in 3 days. I was trapped with no way out. That night I lay in bed feeling the weight of defeat. I'd failed. My grandfather's legacy would be destroyed. Amanda would get away with everything. Daniel would believe his mother had been incompetent. I'd spend my remaining years locked in this room. For the first time, I considered giving up. The next morning, a new janitor came to clean my room, an older woman with kind eyes. You're Mrs. Carson, aren't you? Yes. I'm Martha Miller's sister. From your church, Martha told me about you. Said you were the kindest person she knew. Helped her when her husband died. I'd forgotten. Years ago, Martha's husband had died suddenly, leaving her with medical debt. I'd helped her quietly, paid some bills, got her back on her feet. I don't belong here. I need help. She looked around, lowered her voice. I know. Martha told me what's happening. She's been trying to visit, but they won't let her. Can you get a message to her? I can try. What do you need? Tell her I need to get to my safe deposit box. She has the only other key. And tell her I need to get out tonight. Tonight? That's impossible. The farm sale closes in 3 days. It's now or never. She hesitated, then nodded. I'll tell her. But I don't know how she can help. Martha will figure it out. She always does. The day passed with agonizing slowness. Evening came, then night, 10 o'clock. Nothing. 11. Nothing. I started to think it wouldn't happen. At midnight, the fire alarm went off. The facility erupted in controlled chaos. Staff moved through the halls, evacuating residents. In the confusion, Martha appeared at my door. Come on, Connie, we're leaving. How did you? I pulled the alarm. Now move before they realize you're gone. We slipped out during the evacuation. Martha's car was running in the parking lot. As we drove away, I saw staff doing head counts, realizing someone was missing. I had maybe an hour before they called Daniel and Amanda. One chance to save everything. Martha drove fast through empty streets, her old sedan rattling at every pothole. Where are we going? First Security Bank. My safe deposit box. It's midnight. The bank is closed. Helen's meeting us there. Martha smiled. When I told her what was happening, she grabbed her keys, said she lives 2 blocks away. We pulled into the empty bank parking lot. Helen was waiting by the side door, still in her bathrobe, with a coat thrown over it. Connie, thank God. We have to hurry. Once they realize you're gone, they'll freeze your accounts. Inside, Helen unlocked the vault. The massive door swung open with a heavy thunk. My safe deposit box was number 412. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were the original Baxter mortgage documents, the deed transfer paperwork from 10 years ago. But there was more, a second set of documents I'd forgotten about. I read them carefully in the dim light of the vault. When the Baxters had signed over their deed as collateral, they'd also signed something else, a document stating that if I ever chose to forgive the debt, the house would transfer to me permanently with no repayment required. It was insurance in case they tried to challenge the contract later. Legal notarized ironclad. There was also a handwritten letter from Robert Baxter dated 10 years ago. Dear Connie, words cannot express our gratitude for your kindness. You saved our home when no one else would help. The additional terms you required are harsh, but we understand they protect you. We promise to make every payment. Your forever grateful friend, Robert Baxter. This letter proved the Baxters had entered the agreement willingly, gratefully. At the bottom of the box was another folder I didn't remember. I pulled it out confused. Inside were photographs. They showed Amanda meeting with someone outside a restaurant. Marcus Sterling, the expensive lawyer representing Daniel. The timestamp said 6 months ago, before my heart attack. More photos showed them reviewing documents, clearly planning. There was a note in my own handwriting. Ask private investigator to follow Amanda after noticing suspicious bank inquiries. This was 3 months before my heart attack. If anything happens to me, these photos prove premeditation. I'd suspected something. I'd hired an investigator. Then, I'd had the heart attack and forgotten about it. More documents in the folder. Bank statements showing Amanda had opened a credit card in my name 2 years ago. Records of large purchases. Evidence of identity theft. This was criminal, not just civil. What now? Martha asked. The sale closes in 3 days. We need a lawyer, not Bernard, someone who'll fight. Helen said, I know someone. Rachel Thornton. She handled my sister's elder abuse case. She's tough. Will she take a case at midnight? For this? Yes. Helen called. Rachel Thornton answered, groggy but alert. Helen explained quickly. Bring her to my office. 6 a.m. and bring every document you have. We had 6 hours. But Amanda would discover my escape soon. Martha drove me to her house to hide. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. Daniel. Mom, where are you? The facility called. They said you're missing. I made a decision. Daniel, I'm safe. I can't tell you where. Mom, please, come back. You're confused. I'm not confused. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in weeks. Daniel, I need you to listen to me. Mom, your wife has been lying to you. About everything. I heard Amanda in the background. Don't listen to her, Daniel. She's having an episode. Mom, Amanda's here. She wants to talk to you. Amanda got on the phone. Connie, where are you? Somewhere you can't lock me up. You're making this worse for yourself. When we find you, I'll make sure you're placed in the most secure facility I can find. You won't find me, and the farm sale isn't going to happen. She laughed. The closing is in 3 days. Even if you resurface, you're under conservatorship. You have no legal standing. Wilsey, I hung up. At 6 o'clock, we met Rachel Thornton at her office. She was 50, with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. I spread out all the documents. She reviewed everything in silence. Finally, she spoke. This is good. Very good. The forgeries, the identity theft, the premeditation. But we have a problem. What? You're under conservatorship. Legally, Daniel has authority over your affairs, including your ability to hire an attorney. My heart sank. However, Rachel continued, there's an exception for abuse allegations. If you're claiming financial exploitation, you have the right to independent representation. Can we stop the farm sale? She checked her watch. Closing is in 68 hours. I need to file an emergency motion to halt the sale and overturn the conservatorship. Can you do it in time? I can file today. Whether we get a hearing before the closing? She trailed off. I'll try. She worked all morning drafting motions. By noon, she'd filed with the court. Emergency motion to halt property sale. Motion to dissolve conservatorship. Petition for investigation of financial exploitation. The judge's clerk called back. Hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9, one day before the closing. We'll have about 4 hours to present our case, Rachel said. The judge will either stop the sale or let it proceed. This is your one shot. That evening, Daniel called again. Mom, what's going on? I got papers from a lawyer. They're saying Amanda and I exploited you. Daniel, come to the hearing tomorrow. Alone, without Amanda, and you'll see the truth. I can't do that. Amanda is my wife. I'm your mother. Long silence. She told me you'd try to turn me against her. Did she tell you about Meadowbrook Development? The company buying the farm. What about it? Her father owns it, Daniel. She's selling my farm to her own father's company. That's not. She would have told me. Would she? Ask her. Tonight. Ask her who owns Meadowbrook Development. Another silence. I'll see you at the hearing. He hung up. Rachel, Martha, and I spent the evening preparing. Rachel coached me on testimony. We organized evidence. I barely slept. At 3 a.m, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. I asked her about the company. She admitted it. She says it's not illegal. Is it? I replied, come to the hearing. Bring the truth with you. He wrote back, I don't know what the truth is anymore. Tomorrow you will. Everything hinged on the next 12 hours. The courtroom was packed. Judge Patricia Mendez looked troubled as she called the emergency hearing to order. Rachel stood. Your Honor, the evidence will show a systematic scheme to defraud my client of her property through forgery, identity theft, and manipulation. Sterling objected. Your Honor, Mrs. Carson is subject to conservatorship. She lacks standing to bring this action. The conservatorship was obtained through fraudulent evidence, Rachel countered. We're seeking to dissolve it. Judge Mendez said, I'll hear the evidence. Miss Thornton, proceed quickly. The scheduled property closing is in 24 hours. Rachel presented the forged power of attorney. She called a handwriting expert who explained the signature inconsistencies. The loop differences, pressure points, pen angle. These are technique differences, not physical impairment differences. She presented the forged letter Amanda had shown at the first hearing. Same expert confirmed it was fake. Judge Mendez looked stern. Miss Baxter, who prepared these documents. Amanda shifted. I don't know. They came from the hospital. The hospital has no record of any power of attorney signing, Rachel said, presenting affidavits from hospital staff. Next, Rachel presented the credit card statements. Card opened in my name 2 years ago. $43,000 in charges. Helen testified the application signature was forged. Who made these charges? Rachel asked. The card was used primarily at stores near Mr. and Mrs. Baxter's residence, Helen said. Amanda's face went pale. Many charges were for Marcus Sterling's legal fees, Rachel continued. Sterling stood. Your Honor, I need to confer with my client. Sit down, Mr. Sterling. We're continuing. Rachel called Daniel to the stand. He looked devastated, confused. She was gentle. Mr. Carson, did you know Meadowbrook Development is owned by your wife's father? I learned that last night. When did your wife tell you? She didn't. My mother did. I confirmed it myself through public records. Rachel showed him the investigator photos. Amanda meeting with Sterling months before my heart attack. Daniel stared at the images. Did your wife ever tell you she'd opened a credit card in your mother's name? No. Did she tell you she'd forged power of attorney documents? No. She said Mom signed them in the hospital. Do you still believe that? Long pause. Daniel looked at Amanda, then at me. No, I don't. Amanda stood up. Daniel, don't do this. Mrs. Baxter, sit down, the judge ordered. Daniel continued, voice breaking. I thought I was helping my mother, protecting her. But I was. He couldn't finish. Rachel called Robert Baxter next. He was 70s, gray-haired, ashamed. Do you own part of Meadowbrook Development? Yes, 20%. When was the company formed? 8 months ago. Before Mrs. Carson's heart attack? Yes. Who approached you about forming this company? Long pause. My daughter, Amanda. Gasps filled the courtroom. Why? She said there would be an opportunity to buy valuable farmland. Said we could make enough to solve our financial problems. What financial problems? We defaulted on a mortgage. We lost our house. Who held that mortgage? He looked at me. Connie Carson. She'd been helping us for years. We couldn't keep up payments. How did Amanda plan to obtain this farmland? She said she could get her mother-in-law's farm. Said the old woman couldn't manage it anymore. Did she tell you how? No, we didn't ask. God help us, we didn't ask. Rachel presented a timeline on a board. 8 months ago, Meadowbrook Development formed. 6 months ago, Amanda met with Sterling. 4 months ago, credit card opened in my name. 3 months ago, Amanda began telling neighbors I was declining. 6 weeks ago, my heart attack. During hospitalization, documents forged. Today, sale scheduled for tomorrow. Judge Mendez looked horrified. Rachel presented phone records. These are Amanda Baxter's phone records from the past 8 months. Note the frequent calls to Marcus Sterling beginning 6 months ago. 47 calls before the conservatorship. Also note calls to Dr. Patricia Winters. 18 calls before Dr. Winters ever met Mrs. Carson. Amanda had been coaching the doctor. And finally calls to Meadowview Estates Administration. 32 calls over 3 months, including 12 before Mrs. Carson's heart attack. Amanda had been setting up the facility before I even got sick. Sterling tried to withdraw as counsel. Judge Mendez refused. You'll stay right where you are, Mr. Sterling. We'll discuss your involvement later. Miss Baxter, the judge said, this evidence suggests premeditation on a level I've rarely seen. Do you have an explanation? Amanda's composure cracked. My parents were losing everything. Their house, their savings. We were about to lose our house too. Do you know what that's like? So you decided to steal from your husband's mother. She took their house. She held a predatory loan over them. I stood. May I speak? Please, Mrs. Carson. I addressed Amanda directly. Your parents came to me 15 years ago. They were facing foreclosure. The bank was going to take their home in 30 days. I bought their mortgage, cut their interest rate in half, and gave them reasonable terms. When they still couldn't pay 10 years ago, I could have foreclosed. Instead, I restructured again. They signed the deed over as collateral because they begged me not to foreclose. I gave them every chance. Robert Baxter spoke up. It's true, all of it. Connie, I'm so sorry. Susan Baxter was crying. We told Amanda what you did for us. This is our fault. We raised her to think she deserved more than she earned. Amanda said, You don't understand. That farm is worth millions. She's one old woman with no other family. Why should she have all that when my parents have nothing? Judge Mendez said quietly, Because it's hers, Miss Baxter. The judge took a breath. I'm dissolving the conservatorship effective immediately. It was obtained through fraudulent evidence and false pretenses. Relief washed over me like cool water. The property sale is permanently enjoined. Mrs. Carson's farm will not be sold. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Miss Baxter, you may face charges of forgery, identity theft, and elder exploitation. Mr. Sterling, your conduct will be referred to the state bar. Amanda sank into her chair. Mrs. Carson, I apologize. This court failed to protect you. I should have looked more carefully at the evidence. You did what seemed right, Your Honor. Outside the courtroom, Daniel approached me, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have believed you. I took his hands. She's your wife. You trusted her. That's not wrong. What she did is unforgivable. Maybe. That's between you two. He looked back at Amanda with her lawyer. I don't know if I can stay married to her. That's your choice, Daniel. I won't make it for you. Amanda approached, escorted by her lawyer. She looked at me. You're going to press charges, aren't you? Everyone waited for my answer. I considered everything. The betrayal, the lies, the months of fear and isolation. But I also thought about Daniel, about the Baxters, about what justice really meant. I have a proposal, I said. Amanda, you were right about one thing. Your parents are in financial trouble. But it wasn't my doing. It was their choices. The economy, bad luck. What's your point? My point is that I'm not vindictive. I'm a businesswoman. I turned to the Baxters. Robert, Susan, I'm restructuring your mortgage. I'm forgiving the principal balance. You owe me nothing. The house is yours again, free and clear. Susan gasped. Connie, we can't. Yes, you can. I'm also creating a trust fund. $50,000 for emergencies. So this never happens again. Robert stared. Why? After what our daughter did? Because you're not your daughter. And because I understand desperation. It doesn't excuse what Amanda did, but I understand where it came from. I turned to Amanda. Here's the deal. You make full restitution for the identity theft. Every dollar, you attend counseling. You publicly admit what you did, and I won't press charges. Why would you do that? Because I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in family. I looked at Daniel. Your son is my family. If you go to prison, he loses his wife, maybe his marriage. I won't do that to him unless I have to. What if I refuse? Then I press every charge. You'll spend years in prison. Your parents will have nothing. Daniel will be alone. Your choice. Amanda looked at Daniel, saw his pain. Finally, she said, I'll do it. All of it. 6 months passed. I was back on my farm, healthy and strong. I'd hired a farm manager to help with the heavy work, a young man named Jack, who reminded me of Daniel at that age. Daniel visited weekly, our relationship slowly healing. He and Amanda were in marriage counseling, working through the damage she'd caused. She was working 2 jobs to make restitution genuinely remorseful for the first time. The Baxters visited monthly, grateful and ashamed in equal measure. We were building something new from the wreckage of what had been. Martha became my regular companion. We had coffee on the porch most mornings, watching the sun rise over land that had been my grandfather's, my father's, mine, and would someday be Daniel's if he wanted it. One evening, Daniel brought Amanda to the farm. They sat on the porch with me, the 3 of us, in awkward but healing silence. Amanda finally spoke. Connie, I don't know how to thank you. You can thank me by being better, for my son. I'm trying. I know. We sat there as the sun set over 200 acres of farmland, watching the light turn everything gold. People ask me why I showed mercy, why I didn't destroy Amanda when I had the chance. Here's what I learned through all of this. Desperation makes people do terrible things. But punishment doesn't heal the wound that caused the desperation in the first place. Amanda was wrong, completely unforgivably wrong in her methods. But her fear for her parents was real. Her panic was real. I could have crushed her, sent her to prison, taken everything. But what would that have given me? My farm back, I got that anyway. Justice, maybe. Satisfaction. Briefly. What I wouldn't have gotten was my son's respect, the chance at family healing, the knowledge that I took the high road. The farm is mine again. The Baxters are secure. Amanda is learning. Daniel is seeing who his mother really is. And me, I learned that strength isn't about revenge. It's about knowing when you have the power to destroy someone and choosing mercy instead. That doesn't mean I'm weak. I documented everything. If Amanda fails to make restitution, if she tries anything again, I'll use it. But I'm giving her the chance I gave her parents all those years ago. A second chance to do better. Because at the end of the day, the farm is just land. Family, even imperfect family, is what you leave behind. My grandfather would understand. He taught me that legacy isn't measured in acres. It's measured in how you treat people, when you have all the power and they have none. I stand on my porch now at sunset, looking over these 200 acres. Martha joins me with coffee. Any regrets, she asks. I smile. About saving the farm? Never. About how I handled Amanda? Ask me in a year. She might disappoint you. She might. But I'll know I tried. That's enough. We sit in comfortable silence as the sun sets over the farm that almost was lost, now safe for another generation. Hold on to what matters. Fight for what's yours. But remember this. The truest victory isn't crushing your enemies. It's winning in a way that lets everyone, including you, sleep at night. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between revenge and mercy? Have you faced betrayal from someone you trusted? What would you have done in my situation? Leave a comment below and share your story. Your perspective might help someone else who's facing a similar choice. If this story touched you, if it made you think about forgiveness and justice differently, please give it a like. It helps more people find these stories and maybe find the courage to choose mercy when they have the power to choose revenge. And if you haven't already, subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing impossible choices and finding their way through. Life is complicated, and sometimes the right answer isn't the easiest one. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who's struggling with betrayal. Maybe someone who's considering revenge. Maybe someone who just needs to know that choosing mercy doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope whatever you're facing today, you find the strength to do what's right, not just what feels good in the moment. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And remember, the best legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's how you treated people when you had the power to hurt them and chose kindness instead.